What are we doing here? We're getting healthcare done. Welcome. My name is Nicole Christensen. I'm a board-certified patient advocate and owner of Care Answered. I'm also the founder of Answers for Care, the one-stop shop for aging care solutions. And I'm the best-selling author of the book From Crisis to Calm. But again, we're here to get healthcare done. So I have a fabulous guest with me today, Kristy Caputo, who is a funeral director at Jerusalem Memorial. And we have a lot to go over today, a lot of facts that you may not have thought about and that are really important to know. And so I like to start this with gratefulness, because gratefulness makes us happier. And so, Kristy, can you share with me something that you're grateful for today?
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for having me here, Nicole.
Oh,
I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Grateful. There's a lot to be grateful for. In my life personally, I'm grateful for my family, my husband, my children, of course, my parents. But I'm grateful for the work that I do, because I am able to help people when they are going through one of the most difficult times of their lives and they just don't know what to do. So they come to me and they're able to ask me questions if they have questions, but 9 times out of 10, they don't have questions because they don't know what to do. So for me to be able to guide them in where they should be going or how they should be, feeling about this in certain ways, as far as, planning funerals and, where we are at that moment, not their feelings on the grief, but being there sitting with me.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for what you do, because I've seen firsthand how wonderful you are at it.
Thank you.
For me, let's see, something I am grateful for. Again, there's so many blessings to be grateful for. But maybe I'll pick out this one. My oldest son yesterday was playing the guitar. So he's like, there's a song that I like that potentially he's going to play with his dad. Okay. And he was just playing it for me, and the fact that he knows he just picked up the guitar, that he has a love for music and wanted to do that. It just made me proud, and it just made my heart sing just to hear and it was a beautiful song. So that made that made my day.
I think that's great when kids can do that. That they're just musically inclined and they could just pick it up without any lessons.
Yeah. His musicality is really quite wonderful, and I get the benefit of hearing it and seeing it. So
I love that.
So that's one of the many things I'm grateful for today. So, Kristy, you're a funeral director. I don't think a lot of people even know what that is, actually. But before telling us what that is, please let us know what path you took. What in your life brought you to being a funeral director?
So when I was in high school, I was in cosmetology. And always, the hair, the makeup, the nails, it was something I was always very interested in. And when I graduated high school, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with myself. So I went to Nassau, did my 2 years of liberal studies. And as I was getting to the end of that 2 years, I was at my orthodontist. And we were just kind of talking about, what are you doing? Where are you going? And I told him I like to do hair and makeup. So he's like, oh, my brother's a funeral director. We'll get you a job in a funeral home. And I got a job in a funeral home just answering the phones, greeting people at the door, and I loved it. So I finished out my second year at Nassau, did not graduate, switched my major to mortuary science, did all the core classes because I had all the extra classes already. And that was over 25 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So I have known you for a while. I did not know that story at all. That's amazing. Isn't it so interesting who the world, God, whatever, puts in your path at the right time to lead you to wherever you become.
Correct.
And everybody has that. Everybody has a story and a path.
Yes.
So that's a great one. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
So, are there some things, and now tell us, I'm sorry, tell us what a funeral director is.
So a funeral director is someone who you go to when you've already experienced the death of a loved one and you need them to make the arrangements for you, take their loved one into your care, arrange the visitation at the funeral home if you're having one, call the cemetery, arrange for that, call your clergy, right? So that's a funeral director. But what we also do is we help families pre-plan their funerals. Right. And a lot of people don't know that you can do that. They think, well, I have life insurance or I have, money put away. And they don't realize that by pre-planning, while you may be taking your money from one banking institution and putting it into another, specifically for your funeral arrangements, right, it's locked in. Right. So by locking that in at today's cost, that's a really big savings to your family because we all know funerals can be super expensive today.
Right, right.
And if you're not planned for this and you're not planning what you want, does your family know what you want when the time comes? Or are they going to have the funds for the funeral with the way the cost of things are? So you have to be licensed, right? So I went to school 2 years for it. I took a national exam. I did a residency for a year. Took a state law exam, and here I am, and we have to do credits, and we have to renew our license every 2 years. So New York State is one of the most regulated states when it comes to funeral directing. The FTC is very involved. The New York State Bureau of Funeral Federal Trade Commission.
Thank you.
Sorry. New York State Bureau of Funeral Directing, very involved in what we do. We're very regulated here. So while some folks will say, oh, well, XYZ funeral home is so expensive and, ABC funeral home is less expensive, how do they get away with that, right? I have a lot of people ask me that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
The cost differences. And what people don't realize is that a funeral home on the Upper East Side of Manhattan is not going to be the same cost as the funeral home in Lindenhurst, New York, or a funeral home in Manhasset is not going to be the same cost as a funeral home in Hicksville. Demographics, property.
Real estate, right?
Yeah, real estate, property, the size of the building, the overhead, what do they have, do they have their own livery? There's so many different factors that go
livery.
Hearse limousines, things of that nature.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there's so many different factors that go into it. But yes, the real estate is a huge one.
Yeah.
Huge. So I try to explain that to people, but you have to be tactful when you say that too. Like, we're having a conversation here and you're a professional and you understand. But when I'm speaking to a family, I can be like, well, overhead's just too much. So, that's why the charges are that they are.
No, of course
you have to
not.
be very
but this
careful.
is really interesting and important for people to know ahead of time because when you're dealing with that, when you're grieving.
Right. You're not going to be like,
you're not asking the questions.
Correct.
Right.
So the way that, I like to tell our families is look at your surroundings, where you are compared to maybe the other funeral home you possibly have been to previously or you went to before you came here. These are the things that we offer versus the things that they don't offer. And you make those nice comparisons, right?
Yeah, it's apples to apples.
Yes.
And so then you can make the choice that's best for you.
Correct.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yes.
And I feel like that can only happen in pre-planning. Happen well, because planning, my book is From Crisis to Calm.
Yes.
It's named that for a reason. One of the reasons is when people speak to me as a board-certified patient advocate, the most common thing they say is, I feel so much calmer now. But the reality is, humanity, sometimes we wait till the crisis happens. I'm telling you, I am the daughter and sister of people that have passed away. And I've had pre-planned, and I've had not pre-planned. I can tell you, I prefer when they are planned. I remember I was in high school, and my parents being very diligent, because I don't think I heard anybody doing that at the time, and they were saying, we're pre-planning on our funeral, and I was devastated, because when you're a teenager, most people don't think about their parents dying.
Correct.
And I don't want to hear anything about it. I was like, nah, 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 nah. And I'm the youngest of 6, so they were older and probably didn't even know because they weren't living in the house.
Right.
And when unfortunately my mother passed away, not many years after that, it was all done. It was all done.
One phone call.
And I can't imagine how difficult it would have been if it wasn't. And so, yeah, I know the difference. Pre-planning is the way to go.
Yes.
And financially as well, not only emotionally, financially, when you're talking about you're locking in today's rates, when God willing we'll live another 50 years,
Yes.
That's huge as well.
It is, because people don't realize that while funeral home costs increase, and they may not increase every year,
Right.
Casket companies, they will increase. Your hearse, your limousine, if you don't have your own, those costs increase. But you have outside charges from the funeral home, which are your cemetery, your clergy. Cemetery costs go up every year, not just the purchase. And a lot of people don't realize that if you own cemetery property, you still have to pay to open that grave when someone passes away.
Right.
So that's an added expense. And that could be anywhere from $1,800 upwards of $3,000, depending on the cemetery you're going to, just to open the grave for one day.
Right.
And folks don't realize that.
Yeah.
And that's a really big part of the expense of a funeral contract. One thing we do at JMC, we guarantee the whole contract. Your outside charges and your funeral home charges.
Okay.
Other funeral homes do not. And the reason being is that those cemetery, the clergy, death certificates, permit fees, things of that nature, it's not the funeral home's charges to guarantee.
Right.
So in 20 years, someone passes away and these have gone up. Oh, we need another, $1,500 or $2,000 to make up for this, difference. We don't do that.
Right.
Because our philosophy is, you're coming to us to help you during the most difficult time. That's not something you want to be thinking about. Oh, hey, now I need to go and find, go to the bank and get this extra money to pay the funeral home.
Right.
No, you don't need to do that. That's not something you should have to be worrying about. You should be worrying about your emotions, your family's emotions, depending on who passed away. If you have children, if you have young children, you need to focus on them. You need to focus on your spouse, your parent, whomever it may be that's still with you. Those are the things you need to focus on that moment, not the financials.
Very good. Again, wonderful questions, and it's so much knowledge that you're sharing with us for people when they are pre-planning. Now, tell me also Medicaid. So I work with Medicaid as far as making sure that people get the benefit that they need. And I know that planning, you can set aside money for your funeral. Do you have experience doing that? I know you do.
Yeah, I do. So if someone is applying for Medicaid or they are already on Medicaid, they will come to the funeral home and they will open a pre-plan account. They will make all the arrangements, today for the future, but the account will be what's called irrevocable. Has to be irrevocable by law because of Medicaid. What that means is that if you want to change your funeral from a full-fledged funeral to a direct burial, a direct cremation, you can certainly do that, but you can't get those funds back because it's irrevocable, right? Medicaid wants that because if it's not an irrevocable account, Medicaid will consider those funds an asset, and then you won't get approved or you'll lose your benefits.
Right.
So folks come to me all the time because they have to do the Medicaid spend down. I have folks who come to me and they have a pooled trust because they're doing the Medicaid planning, and the pooled trust will pay the funeral bill.
Right.
The same way the pooled trust pays your electric bill or your credit card bill or your gas bill. You submit to them the monthly statement if it's a monthly plan, yearly if it's yearly, or one shot if there's that much money in the pooled trust. they send the funeral home the check, and we open the account.
Excellent, excellent. So any of those who are watching that don't know what we're talking about as far as Medicaid is concerned, don't worry. We have another show just on 2026 Medicaid, so you can look at that. But it is an important thing that I find many of my clients are not aware of. So, and I send them to you. So, so that is great to know. So tell me about with pre-planning or planning at the point of death. There's grief, right? There's grief for the, like when I said I was a teenager and I didn't go, thankfully, to the pre-planning. But I imagine that my parents were like, yeah, we all know that we're going to die. Nobody gets out alive. But just even thinking about that, even though it gives you freedom and control because you're doing this, there must be a little bit of, sometimes people come to you and they have a little bit of grief, and then certainly when they're coming to you when somebody has passed away. So, you know, I actually know for sure that with funeral directing, that can pass on to you if you're not careful, that grief. But what are some things that help the families that are coming to you?
So in a pre-planned conference with a family, sometimes the folks are coming to me because this is what they want to do so their children don't have to take care of it. And they're okay with it. They're like, listen, we want everything done. We don't want our kids to have to worry about this emotionally, financially. We want it taken care of. They know what we want, but we want to just make sure everything's in order. Then you have family members who come and they're pre-planning for somebody who's sick.
Right.
So that's emotional because they're like, I can't believe we're here doing this now. And my response to them is, completely understand. But you're going to feel better doing this now than having to come later and not even have this conversation previous to your loved one passing. And they're like, oh, you know, you're right. Because there's so many emotions when someone passes away. And if they've been sick for a long time, while you may feel relief that they're no longer suffering, the grief is still so heavy.
Absolutely.
And those are decisions you don't want to make in that moment. And then you have the folks who don't plan ahead of time because they don't want to, they're not comfortable with it, that's not something that they do, or it was a sudden passing, or they thought they had more time. And you just hold their hand. I mean, really, that's what I do. Like I said, I don't walk people towards a certain way in the arrangement conference. I let them lead me. I take the lead from them. And if they have a question, I'll ask it. And if they're stumped, I say, okay, can I ask you questions? You'll answer them. And then if something comes to mind, you'll let me know. Are you okay with that? And they say, yeah, because I really don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's great. So let me help you get through this. And I always make sure that they're okay and they understand what we're reviewing. I will say to them, does this make sense as to why this is happening or we need this? And they understand it. Right. Folks always have my cell phone number. They can text me, they can call me. They know that they can always reach me, because what happens 9 times out of 10 when you're sitting with a family at the time someone passes away, questions come up when they leave. Oh my gosh, what about this? Oh my gosh, what about this? Or who's going to take care of this? Or who's going to make that phone call? So you have to keep that line of communication open.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Kristy for sure, she was going to be on a panel discussion. She was going to be in something that that I was part of, and she couldn't go because a family needed her at that time. And she was so apologetic, but she didn't need to be, because that's what she does. So, so they have access to you. You've had all of this experience and walking people through there. Now, is there anything else that you wish people knew? Because we covered a lot, right, with the Medicaid funeral costs. We talked about pre-planning in general. Is there anything else that comes to mind that people don't know or they're surprised about? And we also talked about the money, the different costs and what to think of and questions to ask. Another thing that maybe you can think of that you wish people know, but they generally don't, in the world of pre-planning or funeral that we didn't go over, because you went over a lot.
I think that folks, the main thing they don't know is that they could pre-plan. Some people don't realize they can have military honors.
Oh, that's
right? So if somebody was a veteran and you get us their discharge paper, we can have military honors. People only think, oh, they can go into the grave, in a military cemetery because they're entitled to it. We can get you military honors. When someone passes away, you don't have to have a luncheon outside of the funeral home. You can have something in the funeral home, especially if it's a cremation. A lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, we could bring food in here. So if it's a memorial service with ashes, they're like, oh, we're trying to think of where to go with our family. We have out-of-towners, especially with out-of-towners, right? They're coming and then they're leaving again. Cater in the funeral home.
Right.
And people don't realize you could do that. That was something that we fought really hard for as funeral directors for many years, and we finally got it passed. No alcohol, but you can have the food. I'm not just a funeral director. Also, people don't realize that. I'm a resource. So if there's a surviving spouse and they need an advocate, they need assisted living, they need an attorney, Medicaid planner, I'm able to direct them where they need to go. So people who just come to the funeral home, they're like, really don't want to be here, but I know I have to be here. I'm like, okay, well, you'll feel differently by the time you leave. You'll give me a hug. And 9 times out of 10, they do. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I pre-planned for a woman for her father maybe 5 years ago. And she had my cell phone number. And I was working in a different, facility. And she called me because her uncle needed to go into rehab. And she's like, I remember you told me that you have all these, connections, webs, right, of different, professional contacts. And she's like, can you help me? And I was like, absolutely.
Awesome.
And I got her uncle into a place, and, just by making that connection, and she couldn't have been more grateful.
Of course.
So people don't realize that. They think a funeral home is just a funeral home, and they're only going to take care of that. Something else that people don't realize is that you need a funeral home. Folks think that they can have a burial or a cremation without a funeral director. You need the funeral director because we have to show our license to allow the cemetery to bury your loved one, to allow the crematory to cremate your loved one. So there's no roundabouts. A lot of people don't realize that.
Oh, interesting. I never even thought of that, but I imagine people don't know that.
No, they don't realize that. They're like, well, I don't need a funeral home. I already have my cemetery property. I'm like, but do you? I'm like, you need us, and this is why. And they're like, oh.
Right.
Many, many years ago, families bought cemetery property. And then they passed it down to their loved ones.
Right.
So a lot of times when I do my seminars in the libraries or the funeral home or, assisted livings, wherever the case may be, folks are like, well, we're all set. We have our cemetery property. I'm like, and that's great. And I love that for you. But what about your funeral home? You need your funeral home. And I tell them, you can't get to the cemetery without having your funeral home. It's like a marriage. They go hand in hand.
Okay.
Funeral home comes before the final resting place.
Got it.
And that's how it clicks with people. And they're like, oh, makes sense.
Yeah. It's just, you don't know.
No.
That's why it's such an important resource. And again, what we're doing here is getting healthcare done. And I should say we're getting care done because it's soup to nuts. All the different things that can help us age well. So it's so important to know that information. And so tell us what the best time to be talking to you, even pre-planning. When do you think is a perfect time? It's not going to be an age, but when do you think is a good time for people to talk?
When the moment hits them. Because unless you're ready to come in and have that conversation, you're not going to.
Right.
Now, somebody may come in because they're thinking about it, and they'll gather the information. And I may hear from them in 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 6 years. But nobody's going to come and talk to the funeral home or the funeral director until they are absolutely ready and comfortable with that decision.
Right.
It's not a monetary thing. It's not a, decision-making thing. It's a personal feeling inside. Now, of course, if somebody is sick and they're in the hospital, palliative care, hospice care, those are the times you want to come in, because at that point in your loved one's life, you want to be able to spend as much time with them as you can before they pass away. So if you have those arrangements in place, all you have to do is stay with them and call us when the time comes.
Right. I really appreciate that you said that the best time is when you're ready, right? But sometimes you don't know the information to know if you're ready, because it just might not be in your head at all.
Right.
So that's why it's so important that we have these conversations and share them with others, because again, there's two ways to do it, and I'm going to say right now, I haven't done mine yet, so I might be the shoemaker that has no shoes or what have you. But I do know from my experience, it's really helpful to not be thinking about that. We could think about memories, and maybe preferable in my case, songs that we wanted played, and have had those conversations so we know what they wanted, and knowing what somebody wants and being able to follow through with that is such a gift. That is such a gift.
I'm no better though. We have our cemetery property. We don't have our arrangements in order.
Right.
So, when we bought our cemetery property when Luca was 6 months old.
Right. And how old is Luca now?
7. Oh my gosh.
It's fast.
I know.
It's fast. I remember.
First time we went out.
I remember.
Yes.
I remember.
It is fast. But again, my husband and I could talk till we're blue in the face about what we want. But that's not going to help, because the only thing we have is our cemetery property.
Right.
So you still have to put everything into motion before that.
Yeah. But and we will both do it when we
are ready.
In that space. So no judgment, no judgment none. Here. And I have to say, Kristy and Jerusalem Memorial Chapels are one of our members of Answers for Care. So again, they are vetted, background checked. They're very highly rated, and they're just great at what they do, like all of our members on Answers for Care. It's a place that you can know you will get the best of the best on Long Island. And as you said, with your web of folks, this is another web of folks that you can partake in. If you're watching this, just go online to answers4care.com and read the information, look them up, give them a call, and they will get back to you. All of our members will get back to you within 24 hours. So it's something you can count on, even if you're just asking questions.
Right.
So thanks so much for being here. It was so great. I think you gave a lot of information that is so helpful. And you can find Kristy on answersforcare.com. Again, it's Jerusalem Memorial Chapels. And we'll see you next time on Care Answered.